Hi there. Thank you so much for signing up to receive one of our essential oil roller sample bottles in the mail. I am super excited to get this sent out to you. Using essential oils has been something that my family started doing about 3 years ago, and it has been so amazing for us. And I'm just really excited to share our story with you and just explain some of the benefits that we've received. So my name is Christy, and I would love to just share a story with you guys, tell you guys a little bit about my history and how I've come to be where I am now with using these amazing products. So about 3 years ago, I was a new mom to twin babies. I had 3 children under the age of 2 at the time. I had a 2-year-old daughter, Willa, and then boy-girl twins that were born, Graham and Vivian. I was extremely sleep deprived, as most of you know if you have ever been a new mom. But both my twins actually came full term, and shortly after birth, my twin daughter, was hospitalized through a series of different stays, and she ended up being diagnosed with something called cystic fibrosis. And cystic fibrosis is a genetic lung disease, and it's chronic, and there's no cure for it. And so the first few months of her life after she was diagnosed were pretty much a whirlwind. Me and my husband, we had to learn how to survive. We had to learn how to survive with twin newborns, first of all. Like being a parent to a newborn is hard enough, but doing it with twins and one who has, as we found out, a lot of special needs was a big transition for us. And just learning how to be a family of 5, with 3 children under the age of 2. It was a very difficult time for us. I experienced a lot of postpartum anxiety. I couldn't sleep. I would cry a lot. I was constantly nervous. I constantly had knots in my stomach, and I was worried about things. I was worried all the time about things. So when the twins were 3 months old, they actually both contracted the RSV virus, and they were both hospitalized for it. My son was actually hospitalized for about a week first, and then when we came home from the hospital 3 days later, when the twins were about 3 months old, they actually contracted the RSV virus, and they were both hospitalized for it. So my son Graham actually contracted it first, and he was hospitalized for about a week because of it. And we had family that helped care for our other 2 children who were at home at the time. And 3 days after coming home, one morning I walked out to the living room. My grandma was staying with us at the time. She had come up from California to stay with us to take care of my other 2 kids while my son was in the hospital. And so one morning I got up and I walked out into the living room, and my grandma was in the living room, and she was holding my daughter Vivian, the other twin, who was 3 months old. And I noticed that with every single breath that Vivian took, her head was doing this like bob, and she would take a breath and her head would just bob. And I remember the nurses telling me in the hospital with my son that this bobbing with their head was a sign that there was difficulty breathing in an infant. And so I obviously was super concerned, and I called our pediatrician, and they said, okay, you need to come in that day. So at the time, I was so exhausted. I was so tired. I just spent a week in the hospital with my other child, and I hadn't realized that my other twin was at home sick with the same thing and getting worse each day. And of course she was the twin that has this chronic lung disease. She has cystic fibrosis. So for her, it was a really big deal. We got to the pediatrician, and after looking at her for a few minutes, they pretty much whisked us into an ambulance, and they said, you need to go to the children's hospital right away. When we got to the hospitals, when we got to the hospital in the ambulance, we got there, and like the doctors just flooded us when we got there. I don't know if you've ever ridden in an ambulance with a child before, but when you get to a children's hospital in an ambulance and they know what's going on, it's like you get there and they part the waters for you. They want to get her in there as quickly as possible. So they got her into the emergency room, and they couldn't find a vein in her body. They couldn't get an IV in one of her veins. And so one of the doctors came up to me and they said, okay, we can't get an IV in her. So we are going to need to take a drill and drill into a bone in her leg to put an IV in her because she's so dehydrated and lethargic. they said, we don't have a lot of time and we need to do it right now. And it was at that point that it really hit me that like, this is super serious. I called my husband and I started crying, and they started saying like, you need to come to the hospital right now. So that was really, really scary for me. That was probably one of the scariest moments I've ever had as a parent, was her going through that. She ended up spending 4 days in the pediatric ICU from that because she needed help breathing and things like that. And, you know, we had just been in the same hospital the week before with her brother. And it was a pretty traumatic time for us. And it was, you know, just exhausting both physically and mentally to see your 2 little tiny babies, you know, so sick. So fast forward a couple of months, and you know, they had recovered from RSV, and the twins were just pretty normal 5-month-old babies, with the exception of what we had to do for Vivian with her cystic fibrosis and her daily treatments for that. So I was still barely surviving. I was pretty sleep deprived. I also was running a full-time photography business at the time. I still had a lot of anxiety, and my only real productive time during the day was nap time. I mean, doesn't every mom feel that way? Like, nap time is, seriously, it is like the golden hour, and it's worth so much because you can be so productive in that short amount of time. I had already had a successful photography business for 8 years, and my plan after having the twins was to continue to provide for my family with this business after the twins were born. So all of a sudden, my son Graham decided that he no longer wanted to take naps. He didn't want to sleep for an hour. He wanted to sleep for 10 to 15 minutes. And I was literally going insane. I was like, seriously, like, this is my time. Like, nap time is mom's time to get work done. I couldn't clean. I couldn't nap. If I was tired, I couldn't send emails. I couldn't edit photos. I couldn't do anything. Like, I was just anxious all the time. I felt like not only was I not providing for my family because I couldn't work, but I felt like I was a bad mom. Like, I couldn't get my kids to take naps. I remember just crying and thinking, you know, it was my fault that my kids had gotten sick, and my fault that I couldn't figure this whole napping thing out. Like, I just remember feeling like so much mom guilt. And I mean, if you're a mom, you get it. Like, mom guilt is such a real thing. You pretty much have guilt for everything that you do, everything that you don't do, guilt for things that are totally out of your control. But I mean, it's a real thing. So him not napping was so much more than just him sleeping. For me, it was that my family depended on me for what I could accomplish in the time that he would be napping. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of failing as a mom and as a provider, and I had already gone through the guilt of them being so sick. And, you know, honestly, now I could barely keep it together, like, at home with them being healthy. It was pretty depressing. So after a few weeks of the naps not happening, I got super desperate. I had tried everything from swaddling and shushing and white noise and rocking and like all the methods that you can think of, I tried. And I literally have read every single baby sleep book that's out there. Anything that's on Amazon about baby sleep, I have ordered it and read it. And nothing seemed to be helping. Like, just nothing was working. So one day I had a friend come up to me and she said, hey, you know, my sister-in-law, she sells essential oils, and maybe that would help with the twins' sleep. Like, maybe you should try it. And I didn't know much about it, but at that point I was literally open to trying anything. I did not care. I just, I wanted an answer. So I got her number, I texted her some questions, and we made a plan for her to come over a few days later. So I'm one of those researchers, so when I am interested in learning about something, I literally geek out over it. Like, I get online, I Google it, I do as much research as I can from Pinterest and Google, and I try to figure out, like, is this the right option for me? So by the time that my friend Jenny came over a couple days later to show me the Young Living oils, I had pretty much already convinced myself that, like, yes, this was worth trying and I'm gonna give it a shot. So I actually ordered a starter kit that day, and I counted down the days. Like, I think I maybe even paid for expedited shipping because I was, like, so ready to get it going. And then I also ordered an oil called Peace and Calming that she had recommended, just, you know, as another thing to try in case the oils in the kit weren't going to be helping me with what I wanted help with. So for some reason though, these essential oils, you know, which they're just distilled oil from plants and all natural ingredients, and for some reason it just kind of clicked with me. It was like, yeah, like that makes sense. Like all they are oils from plants, and they're safe and they're effective and they're natural, so why not try this? So I was determined to see if it really worked for us. So I got the kit and I started with the most common oil, lavender. Everybody talks about lavender. Everybody talks about how amazing it is for everything, especially for sleep. And I was convinced that it was going to work miracles. So my husband, Kirk, on the other hand, was very skeptical. He called them snake oils, and he would not believe that they would be helpful at all. So I made a little roller bottle with some coconut oil in it, and I rubbed it on my son's feet before nap time. And much to my disappointment, 15 minutes after putting him down, he just started screaming and crying. So it didn't work. I was super bummed. I tried it a few more times. I used it for a few days because, you know, they always say you want to try something a few times. Don't give up on the first try. But it didn't help. So I was frantic, and I texted my friend and I said, it's not working. And she wrote me back and she said, you know, don't give up. She said, not all oils work the same for everyone. So maybe take the Peace and Calming oil and try Peace and Calming on him. So I made a roller bottle again of Peace and Calming oil, which Peace and Calming is a special blend that Young Living makes with a bunch of different oils in it. And so I added that to a carrier oil like coconut oil, and I put it in a little roller bottle, and I put it on his feet before nap. And you guys, like, I cannot even tell you how excited I was. He napped for 2 hours. 2 hours. He went from napping for 10 to 15 minutes to 2 hours. He then slept through the night that night, and then every single nap after that, he consistently took 2-hour naps. I seriously couldn't believe it. My husband, he was like a total believer. It was so funny. We were out at a friend's house for dinner a few weeks after we had tried this, and I caught him telling our friends about how amazing the oils were working and how they were awesome and how he totally believed in them and thought they were the coolest thing ever. So it completely changed our life pretty much overnight. And so, yeah, that was the start of it. That was the first oil that we really used with our family, and that really worked. And it all started with Peace and Calming. So ever since then, though, we have been opened up to this whole world of amazing natural products that Young Living carries, and they have pretty much transformed our family for the better. Not only has our sleep improved for the twins, but I got my productivity time back, and it's been amazing how much these oils have just given me a sense of peace about what I'm putting on my children, and is it safe, is it natural, is it effective. My mom guilt that I had, from allowing my children to catch this cold that then, in turn put them both in the hospital, was being replaced by confidence in knowing that what I'm putting on my children and in my children is natural and safe. So I'm doing the best that I can to provide them with these pure products, knowing that they're not touching or consuming harsh chemicals that are so bad for them. And especially with Vivian with her cystic fibrosis, every little cough or cold can turn into a hospital stay, as it did with the RSV. And we've really switched out all of the harsh products in our home for safe, natural ones with Young Living. And I feel like I'm doing just so much more for my children's health now than I ever have. And the saying, you now know better, so you do better, like, it's so true. Like, I really didn't know better back then, and I have guilt about that, but I have to remember that now I do know better, and so now I do make the decisions to make better choices for my family and for our lifestyle. We use the cleaner, we use their entire kids line, we have their shampoo and their toothpaste, and they have so many different lifestyle products that you can use for every aspect of your life, just to live a happier, healthier life. And we just couldn't be more thrilled with how it has changed our family. So I just wanted to share our story with you guys and just share how, using the Young Living products, the oils, and it's just about so much more than oils. All of their products are infused with oils, and they're all plant derived, and just such amazing quality. And I want to share that with you guys. I want you guys to experience that same thing that we have experienced in our home. And so I invite you to read below and read the starter kit offer that we have down below. The premium starter kit is the best way to get started. It actually gives you a wholesale membership with Young Living, and you get 11 essential oils and a diffuser, which is just an amazingly incredible deal. It comes with over $330 in value of the oil kit itself, and then I'm going to throw in awesome bonus extras as well, just because I am so passionate about this company and I really want to share what I have found with other moms and other families. So I am so thankful that you're going to get your little sample bottle in the mail, and I would encourage you to read up on the information below, and I really hope that you will take the dive with me and learn all about these amazing essential oils.